Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will talk about MCP, various concepts, in MCP. We'll talk about tools, resources, prompts. We'll see some real life examples. We'll see some, examples for tools, for resources and prompts, and then we'll also see a sample project, using these concepts. But before that, let me just go back to this playlist here. So I've created this playlist on LangGraph, and I've been covering various topics in LangGraph one by one here in this playlist. So we started off with introduction to LangGraph, then we saw what is state graph, then we also saw what is a React agent, how can we create a React agent in LangGraph. Then we talked about model context protocol, and we saw a basic tutorial on model context protocol. We also saw a sample project using MCP in this particular video. Then we also talked about multi-agent systems, where we explored various multi-agent systems, like network architecture, supervised architecture, right? So in this particular video, we talked about supervised architecture, and in the last video, we talked about hierarchical architecture in LangGraph. Okay, so I've been putting different concepts in LangGraph in this playlist, and I've been putting all these codes, whatever whatever coding we have done, whatever projects we have created in all these videos in this Git repo here. So feel free to just download this repo and use the code for your learning or for your project. Modify the code as per your requirement. Now let's get back to the today's video. So in today's video, we will be talking about uh, MCP again. But in this video, we'll talk about few more detailed aspects of MCP, and we'll also see a sample project, covering all those details, and we'll see the code running for all these concepts. So to start off with, let me just, okay. So, we'll start off with understanding again, just a quick revision of what is MCP. So, and in this one, in this video, we'll be building a AI study assistant using MCP. Okay. So what we will see how to use LLMs with tools, resources, and prompts using MCP. We'll build a smart study assistant using Python. We'll understand MCP with real examples. So let's get started. So first of all, what is MCP? So MCP is like a standard protocol that connects LLMs with tools. First of all, with tools. Tools are nothing but these are like functions which does something, which does some action. For example, let's say we can have a function which does calculations, right? So this can be called as a tool. We can have a tool which gives us weather updates. We can have a tool which does web scraping for us, right? So there can be several things. So these functions which does something, does some action, are tools. Now, second, we'll see how LLMs connect with resources using MCP. Now, these resources are nothing but they are like lookups, where the LLM can look for certain information like a definition, like some, predefined information or some factual information. So these can be resources. We'll see in detail what exactly this resource means in the examples to come. But on a high level, these are like lookups, to which the LLM can, try to find certain factual informations or certain predefined informations, right? Now third, we have prompts. So MCP also helps us to connect the LLM with the prompts. So prompts is basically nothing but, we guide the model how to respond using prompts, right? So MCP allows us to connect all these three categories to the LLM, right? So it allows us to connect LLM to tools, various tools, resources, and prompts. So we can think of MCP like USB for your AI assistant, right? For example, in your laptop, you'll be having a USB port in which we can, plug in various things. We can plug in our mouse, we can plug in the keyboard, we can plug in our mobiles. So that one particular USB port is sufficient and enough for various types of usages, right? So similarly, we can think of MCP like USB for your AI assistant, correct? Where we have all these things as part of the MCP server. We just need to plug and play, this MCP. So that will provide us connectivity, of these various aspects, various tools, various resources, various prompts to the LLMs. Now let's see a real life analogy quickly. So let me just zoom in. So let's imagine a human tutor. Okay, let's imagine a human tutor. As in this video, we will see how to create a study assistant, AI study assistant. So let's imagine a human tutor. So let's say we ask the human tutor what is osmosis. So this tutor answers from memory. This memory is nothing but resource. We have this information already present as a resource in the MCP server. Now let's say the student asks, can you calculate my GPA? So for this purpose, the tutor or the LLM here in our case, or the agent will be using a math tool to do this calculation. Similarly, if the student asks to summarize a particular chapter, so here the LLM or the agent can use a prompt to do the summarization, right? So we can just give a prompt or instruction to the LLM that given this particular chapter, you have to generate summary, let's say in 10 bullet points, and make every summary descriptive and easy to understand, something like that, right? We can write any kind of prompt to just get the summary of a chapter. So this human tutor, right? So MCP basically makes the LLM behave like that. MCP provides all these functionalities to the LLM where it has some resource, where it has some tool to do some calculation, where it has also some prompts to guide the LLM to behave or answer or give response in a certain way, right? So that's what MCP does for us. So MCP basically makes the LLM do all these activities or gives access to the LLM and equips the LLM with all these different resources, different tools, different prompts. So that is the primary function of MCP, and that really makes it really easy for the LLM or the agent to uh, basically give the response in a better way, and it also helps us to modularize the code better in terms of categories. Like they can be resources, they can be tools, they can be prompts, and let's say we want to just replace or create a new tool, so we don't need to disturb the actual code or the entire code. We can just create a new tool or modify the existing tool inside the MCP server, and that's it, right? So this is the use of MCP. Now let's see some examples here. Let's see a tool example, right? So first of all, we create a tool in MCP server using this decorator at the rate MCP tool. At the rate MCP tool, right? At the rate MCP tool. This is really important. So, and then what is the purpose of this tool? The purpose, as we discussed earlier, is to do something, do some action, take some action, like calculate the CGPA, or get weather updates, or any kind of activities in which some action is required. So that is the purpose of the tool. So let's say here we have an example. We create a tool by giving this decorator. We'll see this again in the coding section also. So first of all, we give this decorator, and then we define a function, calculate GPA, for example, in this case, and then we just write a simple function to do the calculation, and that's it. This is a tool. What does it do? It calculates GPA for grades and credits, and then assistant calls this tool to get the result, right? So the LLM. So when we give a query that calculate, let's say user gives a query, calculate my GPA. So the agent or the LLM in the agent knows that it needs to call this particular tool to do this calculation, to perform this calculation, right? So it just makes the life of the agent simpler, right? Or makes our life simpler. So we don't need to basically, create multiple connections, multiple functions. We can just define these simple small functions inside the MCP server using this MCP tool decorator. And this makes the entire workflow very modular, right? And gives the plug and play capability. So we just need to create the server and just plug the server in with the client or with the agent itself. Now let's see another example. This is a resource example, right? What is a resource? Let's say we've seen earlier, but let's see an example now. So we create a resource using this particular decorator. This is a at the rate mcp dot resource, right? At the rate mcp dot resource. Okay, what is the purpose of a resource? The purpose of a resource is to look something up. So think of it like a dictionary, a glossary, or a database in which the LLM can look up to, right? Let's say there are some concepts already mentioned in the resource, like the definitions, like let's say some definitions, like what is osmosis, what is entropy, right? So the when the user gives a query which relates to, let's say, what is osmosis, like for example, the user queries what is osmosis. So the LLM will have the option to go to this resource and give this term over here from the user query and just fetch the definition from here, from this resource, right? So this is what the MCP resource can do for us, right? Now let's move on to another example where we will see prompt example. Okay, so a prompt is actually nothing but an instruction, right? So we create a prompt using this at the rate mcp dot prompt decorator in the MCP server file. The purpose is to guide the LLM to generate structured language, or for that matter, any instruction which guides the LLM to generate response in a particular way or in a certain way, right? That's what prompts do. So let's see an example here. So first of all, we call this decorator at the rate mcp dot prompt, and then we define a simple function. This function will basically summarize the chapters. So here we are saying summarize this in bullet points, and we are passing on the text over here, right? Basically the LLM will return a summary in bullet points. So this is the instruction here, that summarize in bullet points. So this is how basically prompts work inside MCP. So the concept is really simple, that we just give an instruction, and the LLM gives back the response in a particular way, in a certain way, according to the instruction which we give. Now let's see here a quick, a simple diagram here, which basically shows what exactly are we doing in this particular tutorial or in the coding section. This is a simple diagram which shows the connectivity. How the LLM connects to the various tools, various resources, various prompts. So in our case, we will see this in the coding part, that we are using MCP to connect tools like the GPA calculator tool, resource like the academic definitions resource, and prompts like chapter summarizer to the LLM. And we are doing this connection using MCP, right? So we are utilizing MCP to establish these connections, right? So this is the simple concept here, which we will see in the coding section again. So, so at the LLM basically here interacts with tools for action. For example, for calculation, calculation of GPA, right? Resources for knowledge, let's say definitions, prompts for structure, like let's say summary, summary in bullet points, right? So this is the instruction which we are giving to the LLM, that give me the summary in bullet points, given a chapter or given a uh, particular text. So tools, so LLMs interacts with tools for action, resources for knowledge, prompts for structure. So just a final thought here, that LLMs don't only need more data, but they need better context. And MCP basically bridges bridges, it acts as a bridge between the AI model and the real world, right? So now with this final thought, let's quickly move on to the coding section. Okay. So here we have, these two files. One is the study assistant server.py and the study assistant client.py. Now I've already put this code inside this Git repository. So if you see study assistant client.py, study assistant server.py. So you can just go here in this Git repo. I'll be putting the link to this Git repo in the comment section. So you can just go to this Git repo, take this code, and modify it as per your requirement, as per your need. Okay, now let's get back to the code. So the first file here, which is the study assistant server. This is a server file, right? So we'll be creating a fast MCP server or a MCP server using fast MCP module, which will be having tools, resources, and prompts, right? So we have all the requirements here, all the tools. We can have multiple tools inside this server, all the resources, all the prompts and everything well structured, well defined, well written inside one MCP server, right? So first of all, we import from fast MCP, import fast MCP, right? Then we create a server using fast MCP. The name is study assistant. Now we start off with creating tools. Tools are nothing but actionable functions. Now we give this decorator at the rate mcp.tool, and we define a function to calculate the CGPA or the GPA, right? And then we define the resources. These are basically static lookups here, right? So we have some dummy resources which we have created for this particular tutorial. So here we have some subject definitions, like we are saying returns of subject definitions for common academic terms. And we have some terms like osmosis, photosynthesis, entropy, and the definitions of these terms, right? So next we have the prompts. The prompts are basically to guide the LLM to return the response in a certain structure. So first of all, we have the summarize chapter prompt, where we are saying summarize the following textbook chapter into simple bullet points, and we are passing on the text or the chapter over here. Next we have the next prompt as explain concept. So here we'll just give a term and we'll say explain the concept of a particular term in simple language for a high school student, right? So again, we are specifying the exact format of output or exact structure of output which we want from the agent or the LLM here using these prompts. And then basically we move on to the client code here. So here we are using basically the LangChain MCP adapters, right? And we are using the create React agent module from LangGraph pre-built, and we are using Ollama for running the model locally. So we are using Llama 3.2 as the model, as the large language model. So basically now what we saw in the conceptual part, right? We are giving all these tools, resources, prompts to the large language model, which is Llama 3.2 over here, and we're using this large language model using Ollama, right? So I have Ollama already installed in my laptop. So you need to get Ollama in your laptop, and then you need to pull this model Ollama pull, and this particular model name. This is the command. So once you do this, you'll be able to use this Llama 3.2 model. Let me know in the comment section if you need another tutorial to for the steps to set up Ollama locally in your laptop. So I can create another video to explain each and every step, to get Ollama locally in your laptop. But here for the time being, so we are using Llama 3.2 as the large language model, and we have already defined various functionalities here inside the server, the tool, the resources, and the prompts. So we are basically giving all those functionalities to this particular large language model, Llama 3.2. Then we are providing the path or the command to run this particular server. We're saying command Python and argument is study assistant server.py, right? So we have to give the proper path of the server file. and with a proper name, right? Now we are basically loading all the tools, and then we're creating an agent using create React agent, and then you're passing on the queries, query 1, query 2, and then we are passing on the sample chapter to for the summarization query, and then we are passing a term for the explanation or explain a concept prompt, and then we are just running these queries one by one. So now let's just run this particular command where we are just giving it the Python and the client file name. So once we hit enter, it will take a few seconds before it gets started. So once we hit enter, you'll see all these queries getting answered one by one. The first query was to calculate the GPA, and then it calculates that. What is the definition of osmosis? So osmosis is the movement of molecules, right? So if we just check here, gives the it takes the reference from this resource, right, and it moves on to the next queries. So query 4 is what is entropy, so it gives the definition of the entropy from this particular resource again. So it takes reference from this resource, but again it also uses this prompt, right, to explain this concept in simple language for a high school student, right? So this is how we can utilize the various functionalities where the tools, resources, MCP tools, MCP resources, MCP prompts in our to build an entire assistant. In this case, we have seen how to build a AI study assistant using MCP. So that was all for this video. So guys, if you liked the video, please consider subscribing the channel, liking the video, and sharing the video with your friends so that maximum people can benefit from this video. And guys, please subscribe the channel because this really motivates me to create more and more content and explore more and more topics. So I'll be back soon with the next video. Till then, thank you for watching this video. Thank you.